Welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so just a quick update on the pepper plants. As you can see, these are the jalapenos, and they've ripened quite well. And so obviously what you will get is they'll all sort of come together, or pretty much all come together. Obviously, you know, there are others like this one here that are still developing, but these large ones now, you're better off just taking them off the plant. All I did there is just pulled the plant off. As you can see, this one here is going slightly red. Now there's nothing wrong if they do go red, but with jalapenos you can eat them green or red, really. It doesn't really matter. If you leave them on the plant long enough, they will turn red, but you can harvest them as they're green. And as soon as you've harvested them like this, I'll just show you what I do with them, and then they'll keep you in peppers for the next 6 months or so. Okay, so as soon as you picked your jalapeno chilies, all I typically do with a nice sharp knife is just chop through like this. Chop them as fine as you possibly can do. Obviously always chop onto a board. Now the seeds in the pepper, they won't cause any problem. You can either take them out, I always leave them in, to be honest with you. And then all I do then is bag all of this up into a small bag or into a plastic container. Put those in the freezer, and they'll store in the freezer for many months to come. The one thing I do want to explain to you is, in a pepper, most certainly in a chili, the thing that's actually giving you the heat. So all of the flesh part here and the seeds, there's a bit of a misconception that the seeds are actually the hottest part of a pepper. Actually, they're not. If you cut a pepper open like this, what you get inside is this white part here, or paler part. And that's the bit that's giving you the heat, which is giving you the spice part of it. So if you just knock all the seeds off like this, now these seeds most certainly can be saved until next year. All you need to do is scratch out the seeds like that, and then if you put those into a little pot and dry them off, they'll grow into jalapeno plants next year. So if you save all of those, you can potentially get 20 odd plants there for next year. But it's actually this part here. So if I just cut through there like that, like that. So it's actually that part of the chili which actually gives you the heat. Now, obviously, if you've got chilies that are quite hot, like the cayenne peppers, if you've grown a load of peppers and they're too hot for you, if you cut that bit out, or most of that bit out, then what you'll end up with is a nice chili taste without the heat. So that's the part that's giving you the heat. If you take that out, that obviously will, you know, reduce the heat. Now, if you chop a pepper lengthways like this, what you'll get is you'll get some parts of the chili that has this part, which is the hot part, and then other parts which have you know, sort of none of this in. So they'll basically just have the flavour of the chili as opposed to the heat. That's why I suggest cutting your chili like this, because if you cut it like that, then obviously you've got bits of the part that makes it hot all the way through all of the pieces that you've got. So the heat, if you like, the spice part, will be sort of evenly distributed throughout your dish, and you know, you won't need to you know, sort of worry about having you know, a few mouthfuls that don't have any spice in at all. Then all of a sudden you'll have a mouthful and that's really spicy. That's typically when people have chopped the chilies this way as opposed to chopping them sort of lengthways like that. So if I now get a cayenne pepper, cayenne peppers are exactly the same. Obviously all all peppers really are the same. So this is these were jalapeno peppers. This is obviously a cayenne pepper, and it's exactly the same. If I cut it now, this has been on the plant a little bit longer, so it's soft rather than hard. But if I open that up there, as you can see, the seeds are in there just the same. So if I save these seeds here, they'll almost certainly grow into another cayenne pepper plant for next year. But it's this section here. I don't know if you can see the bit that I'm cutting out, but it's that part there. So I'm just getting it with a knife. So this part here, that's where the heat's going to come from. So if you've grown a load of cayenne pepper and you find it's really hot, if you cut it lengthways like that first, take out that part, which is the hot part, and then all you need to do then is just basically go back and cut it up that way into small sections. Then obviously you can put that into your cooking, and you'll still get the nice flavours of the chilli, but you won't get the heat as you would do as if you'd left that in. So that's the bit that gives you the heat. The rest of it gives you the flavour of the chilli. So if you want to cook a curry or a chilli where you want a nice chilli taste to it, but it's not so hot, remove those bits, leave those bits in, then you'll get the nice flavours without the heat. Okay, a quick update on the grapes. As you can see, the grapes are doing really well. We're getting some good sized bunches now. I don't think they're going to get much bigger than this now. We're already into September, so the plant really, as you can see, there's the odd leaf starting to shut down here and here. So I don't think the grapes are going to get much bigger than this. But we've got a reasonable number of bunches. Obviously, we have taken some off, and they are quite a nice grape. I must admit, we have eaten some in the house already. But this is the first year of cropping. And they have got a very sweet taste. They're a little bit soft to eat, so the skins are really soft. But as you can see, for the first year of growing in the greenhouse, I'm quite impressed how it's done. So we've got three, or the little one there, bunches there. Going along the plant, we've got this group in the middle here of bunches of grapes, and then we've got these few at the end here. These aren't quite as sort of ripe. As you can see, these ones here are quite sort of green in colour, and then as they start to ripen, they go like a slightly more yellow colour. But these are most certainly ready to be harvested now. As you can see, these few at the end here can also be taken. So what I will be doing is taking these off in the next week or so to take down to the house to eat. Now these are a pudding grape, i.e. the sweet. If you want to grow grapes for winemaking, you need a different variety. There are hundreds of varieties of grapes. I wanted them as a table grape, one you can eat as a grape. But obviously, if you want to grow, or if you want to grow grapes to make wine, you need different varieties. But that's what the grapes look like at the moment, and I'll be taking these down. So this could well be the last time we see them. But for the first year's harvest, I'm quite pleased with how we've got on. Okay, so through the recent weather we've had some quite cool evenings, and we've had quite a lot of rain. The pumpkin plants have basically decided to shut themselves down, and you can tell this because the leaves start to go brown and the stalks start to go yellow, and basically the pumpkins aren't going to get a lot bigger than they are now. I'm leaving them on for now, but most certainly in the next week or so the rest of these pumpkin vines are going to be effectively sort of dying off, leaving the pumpkins on the ground. Now the best thing you can do, in exactly the same way as I showed you with the butternut squashes, is to take the pumpkins off and put them in the greenhouse to sort of dry. What you can get at this time of year with the onset of damp and sort of moisture, particularly underneath the pumpkin, is you can get the pumpkin starting to sort of decay underneath. So the best thing you can do is to take the pumpkins off the plant, take them into the greenhouse or into the shed, ideally in the light, and then just let them ripen off in the greenhouse. Now the way to do that basically is where the pumpkin meets the plant there, cut it off so you've got about a couple of 3 inches of the stalk left, and then just pick the pumpkin up and put it in the greenhouse, ideally onto a dry, non-porous surface. Keep them perfectly dry, and then they'll sort of ripen off in the greenhouse. Now we've got sort of 3 reasonably large ones here, and then moving to the back up here, we've got one on this side here which is a reasonable size, and then up here, as you've seen just at the beginning of the video, we've got quite a nice one at the end here. Now even though that's not ripened, obviously it's still kind of a yellowy colour, that will ripen off in the greenhouse perfectly well. Just take it off at this point here with a knife or a pair of secateurs, take that into the greenhouse, and that'll ripen off quite nicely. So that's the pumpkins. Obviously the butternut squash plant's already died back, and we've taken the butternut squash squashes into the greenhouse. Now the courgettes are not going to be far behind. Obviously these are all the same group of plants, and we've still got some courgettes in there. Now these large ones, I want to give those to the chickens. They have been having them all year round, but basically what I'll do with the courgette, to start to take the fruits off now, give them to the chickens, and any small ones obviously we'll continue to use in the house, but any of the larger ones, basically like marrows, I'll take them off and give those to the chickens. But in the next couple of weeks, this here will be basically all died back. As soon as they've all died back, what I suggest you do is the actual plants themselves they've got like a stringy, sinewy cord running through them, and they don't compost particularly well. And if you compost them down without cutting them up and then put them in the ground, when you rotivate next year, it'll get itself all wrapped around the rotavator and stuff like that. So what I typically do is just gather it all together, put it on the bonfire for November, and I burn it along with the rest of the wood. So that's the pumpkins at the moment. Okay, the parsnips are doing quite well, as you can see. They've started to form the parsnip at the bottom, and obviously we've got 2 rows here. And what you need to do with parsnip, I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't dig them up now, but parsnips are much better as soon as they've got a frost. So when you get a frost in the ground, what will happen is a lot of the starches in the parsnip will turn to sugar, so that means the parsnip's got a much nicer, sweeter, nuttier taste to it. So if you are growing parsnips for the first time, the best thing to do is wait till we've had at least 1 ground frost before you start digging them up, which is typically, you know, sort of the back end of November, and then you'll be able to dig them all as and when you need it. I typically dig them up as I need them. They'll stay fresh in the ground. They'll overwinter quite nicely, and then basically just dig them up as and when you use them, and that's the best way of storing parsnips. If you do need the ground and you need to get them out to dig the ground over or whatever, you can dig them up, obviously prepare them, clean them, peel them, chop them up, and you can freeze them. However, having said that, you're much better off leaving them in the ground, because obviously whilst they're in the ground they're still alive, and then you'll be able to dig them up as and when you need them. Obviously when we do have the first frost, all of this top growth, the leaves and stuff, will die back, so all you're left with is basically the carrot sort of shaped parsnip in the ground, and that's perfectly fine. The actual parsnip in the ground is still alive, even though it's got no leaves on it, and it will stay perfectly fresh in the ground over winter, right up until sort of February, March time next year. But I typically wait for the tops either to die back or to have the first frost, then I'll start to dig them up and use them in the kitchen. Okay, so this time of the year is a really good time of the year to purchase anything for your garden. A lot of the shops now are sort of selling off all the old stock and stuff like that, and I have managed to buy some containers of slug pellets. Now at the moment I actually bought some from Tesco's this week, and they're originally £5 for a tub. They've been reduced to half price, £2.50. So get your slug pellets in for next year, because they're they're most certainly on offer. Now in garden centres, a lot of the seeds and stuff will be going on sale now. So towards the end of the season they will put seeds on offer, because basically they're trying to clear out the old stock. Having said that, the seeds that you can buy now are still good up until kind of 2019, so these will be perfectly good for next year. This is one of the varieties that I'm going to grow next year. This is a kind of like a cauliflower, but it's green. I have tried to grow these in the past, not with much success to be honest with you, but I thought I'd give it a go. Now Frenchy seeds are really good. you know, out of the various seed companies, Frenchy are you know, sort of up there. One of the best. They're actually Spanish variety of seeds, and they grow really well in the UK. I must admit, the instructions aren't brilliant. You're much better off with Thompson and Morgan, or you know, one of the other ones, Morgan's. But you know, they're not too bad to understand. But you know, as I say, you know, all you need to do is try to decipher the back of it, and you'll be okay. But French seeds can highly recommended. But if you do know what you want from a seed point of view for next year, now is a really good time to go out and get them, because they will be on offer in most garden centres and supermarkets and that. So go out and get your seeds ready for next year, because you can save yourself, you know, sort of quite a bit of money. I mean, the seeds are normally kind of £2 or £3 a packet. And in some garden centres you can pick them up for about 25 pence a packet, so it's, you know, it's basically a tenth of the original price, and they'll be perfect good for next year as long as you keep them in a dry place over the winter, you know, and store them away. They'll most certainly be good for next year. Okay, quick update on the chickens. As you can see, the brown ones over there, those are the new ones, and they've grown really well. As you can see, over the last few weeks they've become pretty much fully grown. So they're there's actually 6 of the new ones. There's 2 down there. There's one just coming out there. Look, that's the seed box, and the rest of them have got on really well. We've done really well for eggs this year. We've been getting at least half a dozen a day now. These White Star ones here, which are actually a hybrid of Sussex, they've laid really well, and they lay white eggs. The cream leg bars, which are these ones at the back there, she's actually plucked all the feathers out of the back, or at least the cockerel has. So she's looking a bit scruffy at the minute, but they lay like a green egg, and they've laid pretty well this year. These young pullets haven't actually started to lay yet. And the brown ones, this one here and that one there, which are Rhode Island Reds, they lay brown eggs, and they've also been laying a couple of eggs a day. So we've done really well. As you can see, the cockerels are on full form. But as I say, the chickens have done really well this year, and you know, they've laid some really good eggs. Okay, so as you can see, the sunflowers have done really well. They're nowhere near as big as the ones I normally get, and that was because last year I saved a load of seed off the flower heads, and a mouse got into the greenhouse and ate all the large ones, unfortunately. Now, when you're saving sunflower seeds, what you want to do is wait till the flower gets to kind of this stage, and as you can see, all of the sort of the little sort of florid bits on the inside here have sort of died off, and if they're good signs, if you rub your thumb on it like that, they should literally just fall off, exposing the seeds underneath, as you can see. Now because it's rained last night, I'm not going to take these off now. I was planning to take them off, but your biggest enemy in saving sunflower seeds is moisture, because they do tend to go sort of mouldy if you're not careful. So what you want to do is wait for a nice sunny day where the flower's at its driest, and then what you're going to do is cut it off as far down as you possibly can do. So sort of cut through there with a knife, take that into the greenhouse and turn it upside down and let it dry further in the greenhouse. Then don't leave it too long, but as soon as it's sort of dried back, because you can get mould forming, what you want to do is take off these outer petals here, as much material as you possibly can do, so that the flower's got its best chance of drying out. And then as soon as it's dry enough to remove the seeds, obviously these seeds are still in there quite, you know, sort of quite well. If you take it inside, let it dry off, within a few days you should be able to rub your thumb along the seed like that, and the seed will start to release. As soon as you can get the seed out, the better, because obviously as soon as it's out of the plant, you're taking it away from the moisture source, and therefore you won't get any sort of mould forming. So as soon as you've got the seed out, put them onto a tray, dry them in the sun, get them as dry as you possibly can do, and then as soon as they're dry, put them into a brown paper bag or an envelope, put them in the shed ready for next year. And what I've always done is selected the largest flower, so that's probably my largest flower so far. So more likely than not I'll save the seed from this one and put it into the envelope for next year. Any of the smaller ones, you can do exactly the same thing. Save the seed off there, and then you can save that for the winter to put out onto your bird tables for the birds to as a food source in the winter. Or if you're keeping chickens like I am, you can put that into the chicken feed as a supplement, because there's a lot of vitamins and oils and that in the sunflower seed, which will do your chickens a lot of good. And obviously they'll pay you back in by making eggs out of that. So pick the largest flower, and in a flower you're going to have 500 or more seeds, which is more than enough seeds for anybody. Take the seeds out of there to save for your plants for next year. All of the smaller sunflowers, either dry them off, take all these sort of little flower buds off, dry them off, and then put the whole thing into your chicken run. So all you need to do is cut it off at the back and then stick it through the grill on the side of the chicken hut, and that'll give the chicken something to do, because what they'll actually do is peck the seeds out of the flour. That'll keep them entertained for a bit. Or obviously take the seeds out, store them, and then you can mix that in with the food for later in the year. But obviously any sunflowers that are kind of this big, you're not going to get a lot of seed from. Even though they are really pretty. You're not going to get many seeds from, but most certainly the larger flowers like this one here, by waiting for the petals to die off and then drying them exactly as I've just explained, you can put them into your chickens, or even if you just put the whole thing onto your bird table in your garden, the birds will come along and they'll help themselves to that. So you've not only helped the bees during the summer, but you're also helping the wildlife and the birds in the winter. Okay, quick update on the beans. As you can see, the plants have started to go sort of yellowy leaf. Now we're in the second week in September now, and basically the plant's starting to shut down. Now I did pick 42 kilos of beans off these plants, so I've had loads of beans off there, but they have produced a lot more beans than I was expecting. As you can see, there's plenty more on. Now these have gone too far. As soon as the beans start to go like a yellow colour, and you start to get this really defined ridge up the side there, that's telling you that the beans have sort of gone too far. If you're not quite sure, if you go to the top of the bean there, as you can see, I always leave a little bit on the plant, but if you put your finger in there, if it doesn't snap off quite cleanly, as you can see, that's quite spongy. That's basically gone too far. Now what you can do is leave these on the plant until they start to go sort of yellowy and brown and drying, sort of drying out. As soon as they have done, take them off the plant and then open them up, obviously, and then the individual beans will be inside the pod, and you can save those for next year, saving you buying any more. I was explaining on one of the notes this week that I had on the last video. I actually bought a packet of these seeds from Frenchie. I think it's about 2 or 3 years ago now. And all I've done ever since is leave some pods on at the end of the year, then open them up, open the seed pod up, and then save them for next year. Then you don't need to keep buying seeds every year. So basically with beans, you only really need to buy the seeds once. There's some down here that are slightly older. As you can see, this one here. See this one here. This one's really ready now. So as you can see, it's gone really pale, like a pale, almost sort of turning white really. And as soon as you get to that point, you can potentially open up the seed pod there. So if I just quickly open that up, all you need to do is push your thumb into the ridge there, and then you'll see that inside there we've got the beans. Now all you need to do is open the pods up. It's easier to do this when the pods are still soft, because they do go hard and brittle after. But if you open it up like that, get those out, and obviously this one here, that's got a bit kind of missing off it. You can discard that. That's not going to be any help, so the mice can have that one. So those are the beans like that. So you need to wait till it's get to that stage, so you know that the beans are fully formed. Obviously the pod's starting to die away, and then take them out like that, leave them to dry so they form a hard skin on the beans. Then that'll protect them over the winter. Put them into a paper bag, and then put them in the shed, and let them get a frost. What you want is the beans to go below zero, and then when it starts to get warm again, that'll encourage them to germinate. So put them into a bag, a paper bag. Put them into either your greenhouse or your shed. Leave them in there over winter, and then next spring you can bring them out in March. And you can start to put them up, and they'll grow quite nicely. Okay then, so with runner beans in exactly the same way, as you can see, there are still beans coming, believe it or not, but by and far the majority of the beans have now sort of gone over. But as you can see, basically what will happen is the beans start to form this hard ridge up the side here, and then if you put your finger in the end there, it won't cleanly break off. See, I'm pushing it. It has actually snapped, but that's because it's hard. Now if I push my thumb through that, I can push it quite hard and it's not coming away. That's telling me that that's no good for eating. That's gone too far. But what I can feel inside there is the beans forming. So if you leave them a bit longer, what will actually happen is the pods will go this sort of brown colour, and this is the time when you want to take them off the plant. So I'll just take this off the plant, and then I'll show you how to get that open to get the seeds out. Okay then, so for the runner beans, exactly the same way. Take the bean pod sort of lengthways, anything like that. Push the two together, and what you'll find is you'll hear like a cracking sound. And what it'll do is it'll split open at that edge. Now it's obviously easier to do this with two hands, and then just pull the pod apart, and out will come the seeds or the beans. Right. So obviously in each pod you're going to get sort of 5 or 6 different pods. So just to show that again, take the pod when it's nice and brown, and then push between two pods, two beans, and what you'll find is the pod will actually split open like that. Now all you need to do is just run your thumb down like that. It's easy to do with two hands. Just run your thumb down like that, and it'll open up, and then the beans will come out. Now, you can actually eat runner beans and also French beans in this form. You can eat the actual beans themselves as opposed to the pods. What you need to do is, I've never ate them like this, but what you need to do, there is some toxins in the skin, so what you need to do is boil them for some time to eat them. But there's no reason why you can't eat these, put them in a stew or whatever. But you do need to boil them for some time. If you are planning to do that, look on the internet and get some advice on how to do that. As I say, I've not eaten them like that in the past, but that's effectively how you save the seed. Now, in exactly the same way as the climbing beans, all you need to do is lay these out now in a tray, let them dry out completely. As soon as they've dried out in the house, put them into a brown bag, put them in the shed or in the greenhouse or whatever. Let them have a winter, let them get cold, and then in the spring, all you need to do in March is then just push them back into your compost, and they'll generate your next year's crop of beans. So, I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden.